Hello my friends, in this video we are going to build real-world application called News app using reactjs. It's real-world because you are going to use real API and all the news you see here are from reliable source. So that's why I call it real-world application. Alright, so by the end of this video, we are going to master React techniques, how to create custom hooks, and other stuffs. So without much talking, let's look at the demonstration or the demo for this project. As usual, we have a navbar with the news, the Trump news, and TechCrunch news, Bitcoin news, and BBC news. And on the home page, we have those various categories. As you can see here, we have one featured news that has a big banner. And if you scroll down, you can see that we have the categories for the various news about Trump breaking news and BBC news and TechCrunch news and Bitcoin news and as that. So the logic I used here was that for the home page, we can display a few lists of news based on the categories. So as you look, if you see here, we have the Trump news. If you click on that, we're going to see more of the news, which is more than the one we saw on the home page. All right, so we are going to use some JavaScript skills to slice some part of it. So if you also want to view more about TechCrunch news, you can see as that, and Bitcoin news, and you can click on this one to go to the source for this news. So let's look at technologies we're going to use. Like I said, we're going to use reactjs, and we're going to use external API called News app. So let's get started with our environment. So first of all, you need to clone or download the starter file for this project because I'm not going to waste my time on the styling. So because of that, I've provided all the component for you. All what you need to do is to go to my GitHub repository, and I'll provide in the description below. And if you click on News App Starter, if you click on that, we have all the components that is ready for you. So you can download this one to get started with. Okay, so now that we have that one, the next one, we need to also have your Postman. This is not a required, but I prefer to use Postman anytime I'm trying to test API. All right, so let's get started with it. So first thing first is let's make sure that your React app is running. So I have opened it here. So I'm going to make use of yarn to install all the packages. Mine has been installed, and what I need to do is that I need to start this server. So let's wait whilst React is bootstrapping. It's asking me, would you like to run this app on another port instead? I get this message because I have the final project that is running on the same port 3000. So I would like to run this one on a different port. So I'm gonna hit enter and it's going to open for me. All right, so now we have a clean slate to start with. So first things first is let's get the APIs. So if you go to the newsapi.org, first of all, you need to log in to get an API key. You need the API key to be authenticated to use this API. So all what you need is, if you don't have an account, you can create one, but I have one. So I'll click here and then log in. So after I've logged in, now it's giving me my API key. All right, so now that I have my API key, I can copy that for the meantime, and let's go to the application, and there, let's see the APIs that we are going to use. So that is why I use Postman for testing. So let me show you why I did that. As you can see, we have various news endpoints. So if you click on this one, all articles mentioning Apple from yesterday sorted by popular publishers first. So we have this endpoint. So if this is what you want, or what you need is copy this, because my API key has been attached. So let me show you how it's being done. So this is the base endpoint, right? News API.all/view2/everything, and this is my search query, right? And this here, they search for Apple, and then the starting date from 2022 to 2022 1st March, that is January, right? And then you can sort by popularity and your API key, right? So because this a question mark is an optional, if you want the user to search for certain news, then you need to provide this kill miss query, and then you can provide these optional parameters. So by the end of this video, we can modify this project to suit your needs. So let's quickly create copy one and test it. So if I copy this one, then I go to Postman, and let me click on any of these ones, and let me call this one News API, whatever you call it. And then in here, let's make the first request, right? So I'll paste the link here and then send the request. And this is what we are going to consume inside our React application, right? So here, as you can see, Postman gives us all the parameters. The key means Apple. So let's search for iPhone here. We're gonna get some iPhone as well. I have news about iPhone. All right, so we are not going to provide this query here. So we turn this one off, and then this one off. All right, so basically that's what we're going to do. So that's what we are going to use. So I've already provided, so here we have the articles about Telsa, and then top news, and then TechCrunch. I use this one, and then some news about as well. Okay, cool. So that's why we're going to use this API. So let's go back to the application, and here, as you can see, let's go through the folder structure before we start coding. We have components. That's where we're going to start writing our own component, and you can see we have a template. This contains all the components that we are going to use for this project. And if you go to the app, there's nothing going on than having this React app. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is that first is I need to get all the APIs I need for my project. So because of that, inside the utils here, I've already provided the API for you already. So if you click on the APIs, and this is what we have, right? We're going to use BBC API, Bitcoin API, Trump API, TechCrunch API as that. So as you can see, these APIs, I've named it based on the one I want. This BBC News, and this is the endpoint we are going to hit, and this is a Bitcoin, and this is the endpoint we are going to hit. So I want to put everything on objects. So in the future, if I want to add more APIs, it will make my life easier. So I have it here. Cool. So let's make sure that we are hiding our API keys. So let's go back, let's go to the home directory, and let's create one file called .env file as that. And here for React, all what we need is to add React app, and then the name of the key. So let me call this one news key, and it's equal to. So let's come back here, and instead of hard coding the keys here, let's cut it from here, and then let's paste it here. So now in our application, we can have access to this key, this environment. So let's go back to the API object here, and because I want to inject some template literal, some dynamic value here, I'll use template literal here, and the API key is equal to $, and then here I have access to process.env the name of the variable I use called the React News app. So we are going to add this one to all of these ones. So I'll copy this one and then change this one to template literal here, and change this one to template literal here, and here let's remove the keys here and then paste it here. The same thing as that and as that, and let me remove this one from here and add it as that. All right, I think I have some back here, so we have that. Don't worry, we will see what to do. Oh, here, that is it. And let's add the keys. So I'm just removing the hard-coded API keys from the endpoint, and that is what I'm doing right now. So let's remove this and then remove that and remove the hard-coded and then paste this one. All right, cool. So now our APIs are ready. So before you move on, I've already installed the React Router DOM version 6, React Router DOM version 6, and we're going to use that one for the routing. And it comes with Axios as well. We're going to use Bootstrap for the component. Cool. So now all the packages we need to make the API call is being done. So let's follow the final one. The final one, let's add the navbar here, right? So let's go to app, and for React Router DOM version 6, the way we configured it is a little bit different from the version 5. So what you need, I have a complete playlist for React Router DOM version 6, and it makes our life easier as compared to version 5. So let me show you how it's being done, how we can configure React Router DOM. So here, first of all, we need the route and auto import, and we need the route itself. And here, I'm going to wrap everything inside this as route, and then inside the route we had an individual route like that. And for this route, it takes a couple of props. The first one is a path, and for version 6 you don't need to specify the exact anymore, because this one going to be the home. You have the home page here, and here the next prop is going to be the element. The element is going to be the component that you want to render. So for the meantime, let's comment this one out, and then let's work on the navbar. The navbar here, if you want it to appear on all the pages, you need to put it here. All right, so let me have some fragments here like that, so that I can put the navbar over there. So let's go to the component template, and if you scroll here, we have the navbar here. All that I need is go to the app and then import the navbar, and I have the auto import. So let me add it here as what? Navbar. So if I save it, and now let's look at what we have. There we go. If you click on this, as you can see, if you hit navbar, let me show you the link tag. Here we have the link tag here, and we have one button called TechCrunch, and you should go to well, I haven't added the link yet. So here we have the link tag here, right? So we come back to that, so don't worry. All right, so cool. So now we have the navbar. The next step is what? Let's go home here, and then let's add this header. And for this header, it's inside the home page, right? So the home page comprises all of these ones. So let's bring it back, and then let's bring in the home page components. So I'm not having the auto import, so let me go back to the project here. We have the home page new summary header, sorry, this header here. All right, I have my header here, but I need the actual home page, this one. So let me save this one, and now let's come back here, and then requires the header. All right, so sorry guys, the header is part of the home page, right? So yeah, the home page is here, so I need to bring the header here inside the home page, right? So it's supposed to be inside the home page here. The header must be inside the home page. Sorry guys. So here, let me bring in the header. let me check again why I'm not having the auto import. All right, this one. All right, so now I've saved it. Let's try again. Now it's working. So here, let me add, instead of this home page, let me add the header component here. So if I save this one, well, let's see where we have, or inside the app, sorry guys. Now this home page, let me show you one more time. This home page comprises of this header here and everything you see inside. So the home page is the parent of the chart, the header, everything, the home page of this one. So let me show you one more time. All right, so home page is here. So now let's go and render this home page inside the app. So here, let's bring in the home page. Home page, cool. So let's render it here as home page, as that. So if you save this one, now we have the home page here, but the header, we don't have much information in there. So let's go back to home, and why this header we don't have much information is here, well, it's here. So let's refresh it. Sorry, we are not in the home. That is it. All right, cool. So now we have the header. So the next step is that, let me close this video, done with that. After we have this header, we have the featured image, the featured news, and this is part of the home page. So for the featured image, we are going to make some HTTP calls to fetch the news. So let's go back to the home page again, and for the home page we need what is called featured news. So if you go to the template here, and we have home page news summary here, and here we have one component called featured news, and this is what we are going to make the HTTP calls to fetch. And I don't know why I name it as about me. All right, so it's a featured image. Cool. So let's add the featured image to the component, to the home page component. So featured, let me go back to the component again, save it, and now the auto import will work. Featured, I named it about me. Sorry guys, I named it about me. It's so weird, right? Yeah, so we can change this one to featured image. That's okay. All right, so let's save it, and now we have the image, this static image, and this data is going to be from an API, right? So let's get going. So let me change the name. It looks weird, right? So let me call this one featured news, and then let me export this one to be featured news. So come back here, home page, and change this one to featured news and featured news. All right, cool. So now let's do the actual logic here. So for the featured news, the API we are going to use is called featured API. So let me close everything, and then let's go to featured news. So inside the SRC, inside the home page news summary and featured news here, this we're going to make the HTTP calls to fetch the data, right? So here we need the endpoint, and remember we kept everything inside utils and API, and this API we're going to use called featured news, right? If I make it API.featuredNews, I'm going to have that. So let's go to the featured news component here, and let's bring in Axios because we want to talk to external API, Axios from Axios, like that. So here we need the use effect to use effect. Do you have the auto import? No, it's not from that. All right, it's up there. And this use effect takes a callback function. So I'll pass in a callback function as that. And the next parameter is going to be the dependencies. So for now, it's going to be empty. So let's bring in the API URL. So the auto import is working. So now I have the API URL. So if I console log the API, you could see that we have all the endpoints. So let's check the console, and then don't worry about the class names here. As you can see, we have all the APIs we're going to use. So for Axios here, so let's comment here and says that make HTTP call. And because we are going to talk to external API, we need to handle the promise. And for use effect, we cannot make use of async await inside use effect. So we need to create our function separately, and then we call the function inside the use effect. That is cool, right? So let's get started. So const fetch featured news equal to a function async, and this function will not take in anything. And let's bring in try and catch. So in case of any errors, we need to handle that. So here, let's make use of const, and then response is equal to Axios dot get, and then we pass in the URL, and it's from API dot featured news or featured, like that. So here, if you console log the response, which is the res, and if something goes wrong, let's console log the error. So we need to manage the state well, handle these errors if there's one. Cool. So now let's call this function inside use effect, and let's see what we are going to do. So fetch featured news, like that. So let's check it out. And now, as you can see here, we have the API key not undefined. If you see here, we have the error over here as being undefined. The reason is that if you make use of environment variables, we need to restart your server. So let's do that here quickly. Here, let's shut down the server again, and then let's restart. And after restarting, we are going to get the result. All right. Okay, cool. You see the error is gone, but it says pending. So it's pending because we need to await. Sorry, I forgot to bring the await inside in front of Axios. So now if I do that, there we go. We have the data here, right? And the articles, everything is here for me. Cool. So what we need to do is let's create the structure, the data from here. And here, if you console log the data here, it's going to be the exact same thing. We have the object and we have the articles here, and there we go. So here we can manage loading and other stuff. But if you have seen the way we are going to do it, it means that we are going to call this separate endpoint 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And if we keep repeating this, we are not obeying what is called dry. We are just repeating ourselves. So we are going to create a custom hook that is going to make HTTP calls, and all what we need is we are going to pass in the endpoint, and that's all what we are going to do. And inside the, so let me close everything here, and then let's start creating the use effect hook. And we're going to see how it's going to make our life easier to use that. So inside the components here, let's create one folder called hook, like that. And for this hook, what I'm going to name it for hook creating, all what we need is what? We need to bring the first letter must be use, right? So here, going to be use fetch. We're going to create our own hook to fetch, use fetch, like that. And this is what we're going to do. So let me go back to the template here, and then the featured and the featured news. So we're going to mimic this. So here, before we create the custom hook, let's complete this one so that you better understand what we are going to do. So here we need to get the data and then display it. And all we are doing here is what? Display it inside the console of our browser. So first, when we get the data, we need to save it inside our components. And as you can see, we need use state. So use state as that. So for this use state, let's create a variable. First of all, call this one data, and then set data here, and it's equal to use state. And this data is an array, so that's why I'm going to make use of array as that. And then we need to also handle const the loading, right? So loading here, and then a function to update the loading. And by default, let's say use state by default is going to be false or true. Yes. But before you start, whatever you name it, so let's name it as true by when it's loading. All right. Cool. So next one is, let's also handle the error. So error here, and then set error is equal to use state. And for this use state, for the error, for now, is empty. Okay, cool. So here, we need to update this data and the loading and the error. And where can we do that? For the actual data here, we need to update when you get back the result. So here, let's comment here and call this one update the data. Cool. So here, all what we need is called set data here equal to data we get back. And at this point, there is no loading. So we say set loading to false. Am I right? And then here, if something goes wrong, we also want to set error. And then let's say the error that we get back from the response. And that's all what we need. So here, if you console log the data from here, now inside the API, let's console the data here, and let's see, we're going to get the same thing. By now, we are saving inside our state. As you can see, we have articles from the state. Featured news, line number 26, and is here, 26. So we are getting it. Cool. So now you've seen how we are repeating ourselves. For every component, we are going to write the same code 5 times, even six times, right? Because for the first one here, the home page, we are going to make the calls 6 times. This one is a featured news API call for Trump news and that. And for the individual pages, we're going to make the HTTP call. So let's avoid that by creating a custom hook. So all the custom hook is going to do is that, one, you're going to manage the state, right? And then error state. error data state, and next one is going to be the loading. So we're going to put all those things, the one we are doing here, inside the use state, right? So let's get going. So first of all, let's create a function, const use fetch, and it's equal to a function like that. And for this function, we're going to get the URL, so called URL from the, when you call this function, we're going to pass in the API. Let me call this one API, so it's more reasonable. And next is we need to get use of the state, right? So let's bring in the use state, and then use effect. Cool. So now we have that. So the first thing is that here, let's grab everything from here. You see, we are just refactoring it, and then put it here. So here we are getting the data here, everything from this side. And next step is that if you look at the featured news, the next step is what? We make use of use effect to call. So here, let's make use of use effect. So use effect. Now it's a function, remember guys, and then we call it as a cover function, and the dependencies here are going to be for now and empty, but it's going to depend on the API. So let's pass in here before we forget. All right, cool. So here, remember, use effect, we cannot make use of await. So let's create our function inside const fetch featured news. Fetch or let me call it fetch data, because I'm going to fetch all data. If I make it news, it's more specific. So here, a function like that, and let's make use of async and like that. So here I can make use of try and catch. So without wasting my time, if you come here, did you see that we are checking try and catch? So the same way, so let's cut this one, or whether we can even copy the whole function here, right? So that one is done, and then come here and then place it inside. So let's see what is going on here. So first we have the use effect, and we can quickly call the endpoint here. But because use effect don't make use of async, that's why I created our custom function here. It is a custom function, and we are making use of data and other stuff. So here we are extracting data and update the state in that. So the next step is that we need to return this function. We need to call this function inside. So here, before here, let's call this one fetch data as that. So here we are making use of fetch data here. Cool. So what has left is that this function needs to return something, but as it stands right now, it's not returning anything. So as you can see, this is what we call high order function, right? So a function that is being called inside a function, and this function, when it gets called here, we need to return something from this function. So all what we need is we need to return the actual data and then loading and error. So here, let's scroll down here, and now let's return as an array, because inside here, you see, we are getting back as an array. So let's return them as an array. Data here, and then loading, and then the error as that. Cool. So what we need is, well, let's export. So export default the use fetch as that. So sorry, export. So here inside the fetch news, now we don't need any of this one. So let's remove everything from here. And all what we need is what? the API. So let's import require the use fetch. And remember, use fetch is a function, right? So we're going to call it as a function. So here, use fetch as a function. Then you pass in the API, and the API is called the endpoint API dot feature, right? And remember, for this, it's going to give us three things. One is the data here, loading, and then the error as that. So it's equal to this. So let's go back to the fetch here. You need to pass in the API here. So I believe you guys saw it. All right, so that's all what we need. While loading here declared. So let's return loading. Data here. Okay guys, because this is a name one, so let's quickly get it as response, and then here response. Otherwise it will conflict what set loading here. Oh, it's not dot. Yeah, that is it. So comma. Wow, that is it. So here, if you console.log the variables here, but we care most about is the data. So let's check it out and see. Well, we have some error. Axios is not defined. Yeah. So Axios, okay, is there. And use effect. Sorry, not use fetch. Use effect. That is it. All right. So now let's check the console. And let's refresh, and there we go. That is magic. So now we have it here. So now we spent my time creating this. So next one, our life is going to be easier. Just calling this one line of code, and then we are good to go. So here, let's also check for loading and other stuff. As you can see here, I have provided all the variables here for you. So here, let's display some loading, and the loading component is inside the template and loading here. Wow. So here inside the featured news, let's bring in the loading, and I'm not going to check for errors for now. So here, before we render this component, let's check for loading. So here, let's say that if it's loading, right, then let's display the loading component, just loading like that. All right, so if it's loading, let's display the loading. Otherwise, if there's some error, then for now, let's put them inside some h1 and then put the error here as that. But otherwise, if it's not so, then we have data bar, so we can cut everything from here, the section, and then put it inside this, and there we go. So let's check it out. So let's refresh the application, and now we see the loading and the data is back. So let's go ahead and then render that. So for the data that comes back, we have data here, and here for the h1 here, let's uncomment that, and we have h tag, and we have the ref. If you console data, we have the URL, the official URL, right? And then we have the news. Sorry. So here, guys, one more thing. For the featured news, let's go home here. We see that we are displaying only one, no image found. Yeah, we are displaying only one image. So here, but what I'm getting back here is we're getting a lot of data. So we want the first one. So all what we need is, let's make use of const here and get one news. So it's equal to data and then we have the articles, and then let's check for, let's grab the first index of the news. So if you console the news, you're going to get only one news. So let's check the console and let's refresh it one more time. Well, for some reasons we aren't getting the news, articles, and then what about if I do this? Well, I think my API is not being called for some reasons. Or have I exceed the request? Or let me put data here. I'm not sure why we are getting that. For some reasons, we are not getting. Okay, let's make sure. Let's console log the data here, just static text and see. Well, oh, sorry guys, you know, this is what I'm searching for, the original one. Instead of the, sorry guys, so it's supposed to be the final one. That's what I was checking for, instead of the one that we are building. All right. Sorry, so this one, it says that truncate description is not defined. Yes, we also have a function. For now, let's remove this truncate description. I will come back to that. And then let's display the title here. All right, and let's check it out. You see, so if you look at the console, we have one object. And we have the properties, the source, the title, and the URL. So that's what we are injecting inside that. All right, cool. So the reason why we could see that the title is too much. So if you look at the final one, we need to truncate it. If we reach some points, we need to have this ellipse here. So let's create a function to do that, to truncate the title. And I believe I have done that one for you already. And let's go to utils and truncate description here. As you can see, all it is doing is that we create a function call, and then we pass in the function, the actual text, and then we check if the length of the text is more than 100, then we're going to slice it and take the first 100 and then return it. And that is all what we are doing. So let's go to featured news, and then let's bring in the truncate description. And now let's pass in the text inside this as that, and then let's call it as that. So now let's uncomment this one back. Here we are displaying the description, right? So description, sometimes there is no data on description, so it says it's not defined. Then let's use the content. And then I think that's pretty much of it. So let's check it out and see. Let's refresh it. And for some reasons, as you can see, the final one, we don't have the image from the original source. So we are displaying our custom image here. So no image found. So assuming there is no image, we need to display our own image. And let's see why it's so. All right, we are going to fix that. So let's check it out again. For the image, title, description, and the image is here. So why? All right. So if you look at the console, let's check. We have the image. The image is called is under the news and source. Okay, you see that we have URL to image is now, right? So if it's now, then we are going to return our image placeholder. So if you check I have for you here called image placeholder. I think, let me see where that is. It's under utils. So under utils here, we have the image placeholder, right? Because we are going to use it in a couple of places, that's why I put it inside the utils. So here, if there is no image, then we are going to return this and pass in some text called image not found. And that is all what we are doing. So let's go back to featured news, and then let's require the image as that. So this is where we are displaying the image here. So where is the image found? Is here. So first of all, we have the image placeholder up there, and for the source, let's remove that, and then let's add some dynamic values here. So first, let's check if news.url to image. This one is the original source, right? To image. If there is one, then let's use that URL to image. Otherwise, let's use our image placeholder. So let's try, and now there we go. So we don't have image from the original source. We don't have the image. That's why we're placing our custom image here. So I think for now, the most hard part of the project is done. So the next one is let's display Trump news. So we are still working on the home page, right? So for the Trump news, also going to be the same way. And for the Trump news, we need to get at least for the home page 1, 2, 3. Only 3 of them, right? So we're going to use some techniques to do that. So let's quickly go to Trump news. So inside the home page, so let's close all these tabs, and then let's come back here. So under SRC templates, homepage news summary, and we have Trump news here. So let's render this. So let's go to the home page itself, this one, and then for the Trump news, make sure you save it so that we can have the auto import. So let's require the Trump news. There we go, and let's place it here below Trump news, and let's check it out. What you are building, we see we have Trump news, but there is no data inside. So for Trump news, as always, the way we did for the featured news, we need to make HTTP call to fetch. And now you can see how going to be easier, how we spend much time on the creating the use effect, sorry, the hook. All right, so let's go to featured news and let's copy some stuffs because we have done that one. So we need the whole of this one, right? And then place it here because all what we need is to pass in the endpoint. And if you look at the utils and API, we have Trump news here, .trump, and this is the API we are going to tackle. So instead of so let's bring in the API, and that's all what we need. You can see how, and here let's grab Trump, and that is it. So if you console of data, we're going to have Trump news data. That's what. So for the home page, we are displaying only 3 items here, but for the actual page of Trump news, we are displaying all. So it means that we are going to get the first 3 of the news. So here, use fetch is not defined. So let's require the use fetch, and that is it. So when we get back, so let's uncomment this one because I've done that one for you already. So let's uncomment this one. Content goes here, and let me show you. So let's bring in the loading components. So the same way we did for that. So all what we are doing here is, first we are checking loading as we did for the first one. And if it's not loading, then let's loop through the articles here, the Trump news. And then we are going to get only 3 items, right? So here we have the article. This one we're gonna get everything. So before we map through, let's slice it, right? So dot slice, right? Dot slice, and then let's get the first 3. So we pass in 0 and then 3, and then let's use dot. So here it means we are looping through all these ones, but before that, let's get only 3 items by using slice, and then we map through it. And then we pass this data to news details component. So if you click on that, let's go details. Okay, we need to bring in the news details component. And the news details component is inside news details, because this one is going to make our life easier, because we're going to use this component in all of the categories. So if you go to the templates, and let's collapse this one, news details here. As you can see, we are receiving all the props that is coming into this. So for now, let's require the news details component from here. And if you loop through, we're not going to render that. And if you do that, let's refresh it. Let's save it rather. So here we are passing only 3 items to the news details component. So let's do that. And now, as you can see, we have 3 items, but it's empty because there's no data passing the component yet. We are passing in, but we are not receiving it. So we are passing this image, title, description, the source inside that. So if you go to news, we need to grab all of the data coming in. So if you make use of props here. And now, if you console log, make sure you are inside the news details component. So if you do that, and now let's see, we have all the details here. So let's destructure that instead of making use of prop. So the way I like to do is, I don't want to stop typing for everything. So go to here, come here, let's copy everything, all the props you are passing in, and then let's paste in here. And then, sorry, not this one rather. It's it's this one. Yeah. So details, and then let's paste in here. And here, let's remove this one, and then let's grab all the variables that we are passing in. Instead of typing everything, that's how I like to do. So like that, I'm just receiving the props I'm passing in from the featured news. So spend more time on something, and then at the end of the day, you're going to make it easier for you as you proceed. So here and here and here, I think we are good to go. I'm not sure I've installed Prettier. That is why it's jumping around like that, like formatting, and install Prettier formatter. Alright, so now I have this that because of the theme I'm using, it says that this variable is not being used. So here, to display the image, this one display the image. So let's uncomment this one up. I think it's this one rather here. Yeah. So you're passing in the image placeholder. So let's require this component. And then the source. Let's uncomment this one. And then this one going to be the title. So let's bring in the truncate function. You see how we are making use of all the things we spent more time on it. And here too, we are just displaying the description and then checking. If there is no description, then undefined. If there's description not defined, then let's truncate. Otherwise, sorry, let's use the content description rather. Otherwise, let's use the content and then read more. All right, so now let's save it, and now prop is not defined, so yes, so let's bring this one back. Don't worry about the formatting because I've installed a prettier. There we go. Now you see we have Trump news. All right, now that we have finished with the Trump news homepage that we are displaying at least 3 of them, so next is let's go to the final one. After the Trump news, we are also making an HTTP call to display only 3 images for the BBC News. So guys, one more time, the home page comprises of all these featured news that you see. So let's head over to the home page component inside the template, and let's go to the app one more time, and here let's go to the home. So here below here we are going to display BBC News here. So let me save this one again so that I can have the auto import. So let's call this one imported BBC homepage, and not here, sorry, you should import it inside the home page rather. Here, yes, here. So inside the home page component, let's import the BBC homepage, and then let's add it up to this. And now let's check it out what we have achieved. So we have the BBC News, so we don't have nothing inside. So what we're going to do is that let's head over to the BBC homepage news here, and as usual we are going to make the exact way we did for the featured news. So let's bring in use fetch, the hook that we created in the previous video. Alright, so here let's call the function as a hook, and if you call it, we have access to 3 things. We have the data, and we have the loading and error. So to make our life easier, because it's the exact same as this one, we can copy this one. Let's copy this one and place it here. The difference here is going to be the API we are going to hit. So I have imported the API as that, and here instead of the featured, we're going to make use of BBC News. BBC. Cool. So we are going to look through and display the details, right? So the content goes here as usual. We are going to check for loading and other stuff, but all right, so let's bring in the loading here as that. And before we loop through this one, let's check for loading. So let me have some fragment here and here as that. And first of all, let's check for loading. So if it's loading, then let's display the loading component. Otherwise, if there are some error that we have, then let's display the error as that. Otherwise, we can go ahead and then loop through this, right? So here, sorry guys, let's put it here inside the content here. So here rather, because I'm going to loop through and create the content here. All right. So if there is error, we display the error loading, and if there is some error, we display the error. Otherwise, we're going to create a content here. So for now, let's just add some H1. Sorry, let's loop through. It's going to be the data, and remember we want only 3 of them. So articles, and for the articles here, let's make it, is it data dot question mark articles? Oh, sorry, no quotation mark here. Sorry guys. All right, so if the data are going to get the 3 items, so you're going to slice it like that, and let's take slice, and let's take the first 3 items, and now we can go ahead and map through it. So there we go. So for individual news here, let's have some news here. You can make it new or news, because if you make it new, it's a kind of JavaScript keyword. That's what make it news. All right, so here we are going to return, for now, let's return some H1, and let's call this one news. So let's check it out inside. There we go. We have 3 items. So let's return, instead of returning H1, let's bring in the news details component. And we are going to return that and then pass in all the props we need. So check it out. Now we have this one because there's no image. So we are using our placeholder images for that. As you can see, we have the static text over there. So if you go back to featured news, all the props is not this one. Remember, we did the same for, was it Trump news, this one, and Trump news homepage. I think where is this one? Yeah, so you can see that we are passing all the props, so it's going to be the same way. So let's copy that and let's go to the BBC homepage, and now we can render that. So it's going to be the exact, so in between that, let's pass in all the props. It's going to be the same. So instead of news here, is now, here is not news response, but it's news for this purpose. Okay, so let's check it out what we have. There we go. We have BBC News. So the next step is the last one, TechCrunch News. So the same way we did. So as you can see, even this component is reusable. We can refactor the application a little bit, but it's okay for this project. So let's collapse all these opened components, and next is let's go to the template and then home page. Here we are going to render the last TechCrunch component. So under home page news summary here, we have TechCrunch component, and let's go ahead and then render the TechCrunch component as that, and we can even make copy and paste, and what we need is to change the endpoint. Have you seen how it's making our life easier? So we can even go to the, well, let's go to the BBC homepage, and trust me, we can copy the whole of these ones, the whole component. Yes. And let's go to TechCrunch here and then replace with this, because we need the first 3 items. So here, let's require the component that is not available in this. And let's go again, come here again, and then call this function, this hook, and then let's require this hook. All right, and then instead of BBC, it's called TechCrunch. Oh, so let's require the API before I can get the property. TechCrunch. There you go. So with this, let's see. Oh, news details is not imported. So let's see. Okay, let's change this one to BBC News, the TechCrunch, because when I copied it, it took, let me call this one TechCrunch News. and there we go. And if we want, we can add some color, make it red as the previous one. Alright, cool. So have you seen how component is reusable for our likeness? So what has left is these ones. When I click on this news, it should render that. So let's go to navbar, and let's close everything for now. So now we are done with the home page. Now it has left with the individuals links, right? So we are going to take it step by step, and I'm going to be the same. All right, so inside the template, first let's work on the BBC news, and we're going to render the same way, but instead of just slicing, we're going to display all for the BBC news. So we can even come here, BBC homepage here, and yes, yeah, and we can even copy the whole of these ones, right? Copy the whole of these ones, and instead of just slicing it, we are just going to display all. How easy it is. So BBC news, so instead of this one, let's place this one here, because we're going to display all. So the difference here is that instead of slicing, instead of displaying 3 items, we are going to display all. So instead of slicing here, we are removing the slice here to display all. And what I need is this component. Let's make it, okay, news details component. I need to resave it again. So where is the news details component? The auto import didn't work for me, so let's save it, and now it's working like magic. So let's come back to BBC homepage here, and now let's require this, and then bring it here and bring in the fetch and then the API as that. It's the same BBC. And the loading, let's bring the loading also. And that is it. So if we click on BBC news, okay, now it's time to render because we're not rendering the BBC news. Cool. So what I have to do is, let's go to app. Now we need to render the BBC news, right? And let's bring in here the BBC news, and let's render it here as route, or I can copy the whole of these ones again to make our life easier, and then change this one to BBC news, and then change this one to BBC news, and that is it. So now there we go. When I click on BBC news, we have, I don't know why it's refreshing. Maybe I'm using the href instead of link tag from React Router DOM. So let's see, I have Trump news, link is here. Oh, I said it because I'm using the link. So instead of A, let me use the link from React Router DOM. All right, so let me change this one to link and change this one to 2. And I think I have one more here, one more link. Let me change this one to link, and then Bitcoin news. Okay, now all of them are having the link tag. So BBC news, why when I change it is not well. Let's check why it's giving me this white screen. Cannot navbar. Okay, let me undo and see. Okay, check it again. Now it's back. All right, so why, if I try to make use of link tag, it's not working. Let's see. This one's supposed to be 2. Change this one to link, and let's save. All right, we have it. Cool. So next one is let's work on the Bitcoins. So now we have 3 more components to render. So let's close this ones, the one that we have finished working on. Oh, sorry, but we have to change the link tag for the other ones too. I forgot. So let's change this one to link, and this one here to be link. Instead of ref, it's going to be 2. Let's see, yeah, it's still, and let's change this one to link and change the ending to be link and change this one to 2 BBC, and there you go. All right, so let's work on the whether Bitcoins or Trump news. Okay, let's work on the Trump news and then we work on the Bitcoins as well. Cool. So for Trump news, let's go to so we are done with BBC news, close this one and navbar. Sorry guys. So let's go to Trump news, not this one, not homepage. Make sure you're not inside the homepage component. Sorry guys. All right, so here BBC and Trump news. Oh, we have them as details. So let's go to the homepage components. We changed the instead of this one, the homepage for this one, but it's okay. So here gonna be the same thing for the Trump. So let's come here, and the way we did for this, right, we can even copy the whole of this one, everything inside it, and come to Trump homepage. This one isn't supposed to be homepage, but just that maybe we forgot the component we are supposed to use. So let's return everything. Let's copy everything inside this, and then come here and then place it here as that, because we are going to use the same way. Instead of just slicing, we're just going to remove it and display all, and that is what we are doing right now. And place this one here, and then import our hook and the same Trump, right? Same Trump, and then the API that we need also we have it. So let's see what we have. If I go to homepage, Trump news, oh, let's render the component, and let's bring in here Trump homepage. It's supposed to be news instead of homepage, but we made mistake about the component we use for the 3 items and for all. So here it's called Trump news. So change this one to Trump news, and here Trump homepage news. Okay, for Trump homepage news, let's import the loading. We didn't have the loading, so let's do that, and the news details as that. So we are good to go. There you go. Trump is loading. So now instead of 3 items, let's remove this slice items here, and let's see. There we go. We have all the response coming back. So we are done with the Trump news, BBC news, and the 2 other TechCrunch and BBC. So again, let's close this one, and let's go to the template, and we are done with. What about Bitcoin? Let's see. Okay, let's work on the Bitcoin. So here, Bitcoins here, we're going to render this. So let's go to the Bitcoin homepage, and here, and for Bitcoin homepage, we didn't do it well. So we are going to do the same thing for the 2. All right, so it's going to be the same way we did for the Trump news. So we can copy the whole component and change the API, right? So let's do this one for this. So instead of title here, TechCrunch, we change it to BBC, don't worry. So let's copy this and come to Bitcoin news here. Let's place everything here. The difference, one more time, is going to be the API. And because we spent much time on the creating use effect, now it's making our life easier. So let's import the API, and here is going to be .bitcoin news, and let's require these two components, loading and other stuffs. And last thing is we need to render this. So let's go to app and Bitcoin news. So here, let's copy one of this route here, paste it, and call this one Bitcoin news. And then let's replace this one with that. So let's see, use fetch is not defined inside Bitcoin. I forgot. So let's see. Bitcoin. Okay, let's change from Bitcoin, right? Title here. So otherwise, so instead of Bitcoin, because I copied, it's supposed to be, well, is the title? Oh, Bitcoin news. There you go. So now we're done with the Trump news and Bitcoins and BBC. The last thing is the TechCrunch. And TechCrunch, we have the featured one in the home page. So let's close this one more time, and let's go to home page, and remember we have this one, so we can copy this one and then change. Oh, did I remove? Let me check. Bitcoin. Oh, let me remove the I want to display all, so I don't know why. So here, I believe you guys saw it, removing the slides here, so I can display all. All right, there you go. So let's work on the TechCrunch. So for the TechCrunch, let's go to the TechCrunch components. Here we have the home one. We're going to copy this, and let's locate the TechCrunch news itself, this one. So let's come back to the first one here, and let's come back to TechCrunch here and then paste it. So for TechCrunch homepage, let's require this component, this function, and then bring it here. Before I forget, let's require this one's API. And it's not TechCrunch, yeah, still TechCrunch. And before I forget, let's require the component, and that is all what we need. So Trump news, we have it. Our last thing is let's render the component. So it's gonna be, was it TechCrunch news? And let's come back here, and then let's gonna be TechCrunch news, and there we go. So we have home page, we have all the featured news here, and then TechCrunch news. Maybe I forget the spellings. Oh, it's gonna be this. The path didn't match. All right, so now, let's remove the first three. I believe this one. Let's remove the slides here, and we're going to have, yeah, we have Trump news displaying all, TechCrunch news displaying all, Bitcoin news, and BBC news. So guys, if you like this video, comment and share to promote me to do more videos like this. So catch you up in the future project.